Dear students, today we shall continue the discussion on the file system management. In the previous video, already learned that the importance of file system. Actually, the file system is an integral part of operating system because in the computer, everything will be stored in the form of file. It may be any data, information, program, or any device or any hardware component. It will be stored in the form of file only. So that is why in any computer system or operating system, file system plays very important role. And they also we learned that how actually the files are stored in the file system. Actually, there are different structures like we learned about tree structure, graph structure, cyclic graph structure. That is how actually the files are organized in the file system. Here, our motto should be efficient access of the file. It means it must be very efficient to access the files. There should not be any delay in the file accessing. Now we shall discuss about file system mounting. Actually, the files or the file system will be residing in the secondary storage devices like disk or hard disk. And if you want to access any of the file from file system, then we supposed to do mounting of the file system. What is the meaning of mounting? File system mounting is basically process of bringing a file system from the disk to the main memory. Then only its files are accessible to the processes or the users. Until that, we cannot use the files of the file system because it will be permanently residing in the secondary storage device like this. From disk, we cannot directly access the contents of the file system. So that is why it is very much necessary to bring or load a file system which is residing the disk into main memory. So then it is accessible. So that process is nothing but file system mounting. It means a file system must be mounted before it can be accessed. If the file system is not mounted, then that file system is not accessible. Any file that is a part of a file system is not accessible to either processes or to the users. So it must be mounted before it can be accessed. The operating system is given the name of the device and the mount point. So that is the location within the file structure where the file system is to be attached. So as I mentioned already, the file system will be stored at the disk and the operating system must be knowing the location of the mount point within the file structure. So mount point must be known to the operating system. So then only it is possible to mount the file system. For example, if we take the Unix operating system, a file system that is containing user's home directory can be mounted as /home. In Unix, the main directory is forward slash, that is called as a root directory. In the root directory, there is a subdirectory called home. So home is basically a directory of the user and it will be mounted by default when a system is started. And unmounted file system must be having a mounted point. So that must be known to the operating system. Now let us take one example here. So there are two diagrams you can see here. One is A and B. The A diagram is basically existing file system. Okay, so it is basically for the Unix system. As I mentioned already, in the Unix, the main directory is called as root directory, that is indicated as forward slash. It is basically root directory. So the directory or the file system structure will begin with this particular root directory in Unix. So that is basically made as a root node in the tree. So this is basically a tree representation of the file system. So that we already learned in the previous video. And this particular triangle is indicating subdirectories. Okay, there will be a main directory and it may be containing subdirectories including other files. So this particular triangle in the diagram is indicating subdirectory. Again, the subdirectory will be containing files or it may contain some other subdirectory, that is called a sub of subdirectory. So the complete file system hierarchy is represented as a tree. So we'll begin with the root node here. So the root node is basically indicated as a slash. So that is the main directory in the Unix system, and in that there is a subfolder called users. All user related data will be stored in this particular folder. We know that Unix is a multi-user system. There will be multiple users operating the system simultaneously, and for each user there will be a separate directory or folder maintained in the Unix system. Okay, and all those directories of the users will be stored in users directory. So users is basically subdirectory in the root directory. Okay, so there will be different users like Bill and Fred, and for each user there is a separate subfolder maintained in the users folder here or users directory here, and Bill may be having the files or other subdirectories related to the user Bill. So similarly for the user Fred, so there is a folder exists in users directory, that is Fred. So this Fred may be containing subdirectories and other files. So there is a subdirectory called help, or there might be some other files also, and help might be containing again subdirectories and other files. So that is how the file system is organized like a tree in Unix. So this is the existing file system. Now let us look at a B diagram. It is basically unmounted file system. What is unmounted file system? It means the file system, it is residing on the disk, but it is not yet loaded into the main memory. So that is called as unmounted file system or unmounted partition. So the unmounted volume is residing on. So this is the path name for the file system that is residing on the disk. The path name is /device/dsk. So in the dsk, actually this file system is stored here. Present it is unmounted, which is present in the disk. And if you want to mount this particular file system, we need to mention mounting point. Now, so this diagram is indicating the mounting point. Okay. Whenever we mount this particular file system, it means whenever we load this particular file system from disk to the main memory. Now let us see what is the effect here. The effect of mounting the volume residing on /device/dsk over /users. So after mounting that particular file system, the effect will be like this. The file system was residing in the disk in this particular path, and it will be brought over /users folder in the Unix system. Okay, we know that already there will be root directory. Under root directory there will be users directory. So in that users directory we are mounting the file system, so which was residing in this particular path, and it is brought over this user folder, so that the entire file system has been brought into this particular users folder. Now the contents of this particular file system can be accessed by the processes and users. Now it is called as mounted file system. Until the file system mounted, we cannot access contents of the file system because it was residing in the disk. Now let us move on to the next topic, that is file sharing. We know that in the multi-programming system or multi-program systems, there are a number of processes or programs being executed simultaneously, and the resources will be shared. We know that resources are very precious and they must be efficiently utilized. In order to improve the degree of multi-programming, what is the degree of multi-programming? In less time, it must be possible to execute more number of programs. So that is increasing throughput of the system. Okay, throughput is basically the number of programs executed per unit time, that is called as throughput. So as much as possible, we should try to increase the throughput. But the resources are limited in the computer system, and if at all you want to improve the throughput or if we want to increase the degree of multi-programming, then we need to go for resource sharing. So some of the resources can be shared in the system. We already learned that resource can be either hardware resource or it can be software resource. Hardware resources include CPU, memory, input devices, output devices. So such devices can be shared. The software resources mainly containing files. So file is basically software resource, and we already learned that whenever we create a new process, so basically we need to allocate the resources, including hardware resources like CPU, memory, and I/O devices or peripherals, and also we need to allocate the software resources like files. Basically, a process requires three basic files, that is std in, which is indicating standard input file, std out standard output file, std error, that is standard error file. And whenever we create a new process, these three files must be compulsorily allocated. So as I mentioned already, to improve the throughput of the system, the resources must be shared. Now let us see how the software resource like files can be shared. And sharing of files on the multi-user system is almost compulsory. But if at all you want to share the files among the multiple processes or users, there must be some protection provided. What is the protection? See, actually a file will be created by some user who is basically called as owner. So owner has got all the rights on that particular file, that is called as owner will be having the exclusive rights on the file because that user has only created that particular file. And if any other user or process wants to share that particular file or access that file, so that process or user must be having the access permissions, access rights. If it is having enough access rights, then only the file sharing is allowed, otherwise not. So that is what protection must be there for the file sharing. If no protection is provided, then that may lead to inconsistent results in the system, because if we allow file sharing without any protection to any other process or user, so that process or user may modify the contents of this file, which may be affecting the desired results. So always it is not preferred sharing without protection. So file sharing must be allowed through some protection scheme. And if we take any distributed systems like internet, so the one of the important function of internet is resource sharing or data sharing. We know that in the internet there will be basically two kinds of entities, client and server, and the data or the information will be residing on the server, and clients will be making a request for the data, and the servers will be providing the requested data over the network. So it means internet is basically used for the information sharing or file sharing. So in case of distributed systems like internet, files must be shared over the network or internet. Here the file access or content access will be totally different because network is coming into picture here. So there is something called network file system. It is a commonly used distributed file sharing method, that is network file system. Now let us see file sharing among multiple users. We know that the multi-user system like Unix is basically multitasking and multi-user system. What is multitasking and multi-user system? Multiple programs are being executed by multiple users simultaneously. So many users are able to use the system at the same time, and every user will be creating his own set of processes or executing his own set of programs. So like this, multiple users will be executing different processes simultaneously in the system. In this particular scenario, let us discuss about file sharing, how the files are shared among multiple users. So in the multi-user system, every user is identified by a unique number called as user ID, and that user must be having access permissions. Then only that user is allowed to use a particular file. It means permissions and protections for file sharing must be defined for every user. So based on the permissions and protections, the file sharing may be allowed. So in Unix there is something called as groups, user groups. A set of users are put into a particular group, and there are some access permissions assigned to that particular group. The users which are belonging to that particular group will have some access rights or access permissions. So that is called as access permissions for the group users. Okay. So that group is assigned with a unique number that is called as group ID. It means depending upon the user ID or group ID, access permissions will be assigned, and based on the access permissions or access rights, file sharing will be done. Now let us look at file sharing with respect to remote file system. What do you mean by remote file system? It's a file system that is exists on the network or distributed systems like internet. So that is called as remote file system. So as I mentioned already, in the network basically the information sharing or communication happens between client and server. That is called as client server model, and the communication is always started by the client. The client is going to make some request for the information which is sent to the appropriate server, and server is basically another type of system that is attached to network or internet, which is basically storing the information. What it does is it will process the client request and provide the requested information back to the client. So that is what client server model. Now let us see how file sharing is possible with respect to remote file system over the network or internet. Here actually in internet or distributed systems, files can be manually shared with the help of some network programs like FTP. FTP is basically file transfer protocol. With the help of FTP program, we can transfer the file from server to the client. It means a file can be shared manually through programs such as FTP. Then the file sharing can be done automatically and seamlessly using distributed file system. In the internet, especially in the server, there will be file system maintained that is called as distributed file system. Actually, here what happens is a particular directory from the server will be shared with a particular set of clients. It means a set of clients will be accessing a particular directory from the server. So that is possible through distributed file system. It means the client must be having enough access permissions or rights. Then server is going to provide a particular folder to the clients for accessing. So that is called as automatic access through distributed file system. So that is another method that is semi-automatic. So it is with the help of World Wide Web, that is called as WWW. So with this particular World Wide Web, we can access the files or files can be shared. It is called as a semi-automatic method. And the client server model allows the clients to mount remote file system from server. So as I mentioned already, client is going to make a request for the file system from the server. Okay, here we know that server can handle multiple client requests, so it is serving multiple client requests. The clients who are requesting for the file system or files will be served by the server simultaneously. It means server will be serving multiple clients at the same time. Client and user and client identification is insecure and complicated. Here the server has to clearly identify a client system or user on a client system. Otherwise, the information will be insecure. Hence, this process will be a bit complicated for the server, and it is time consuming also. So that is causing a delay in the access. For example, if we take Unix client server, then we make use of a sharing protocol that is called as NFS. Network File System is basically file sharing protocol that is being used by client Unix client server systems. And if you take Windows, there is a different protocol that is called as CIFS. It is a protocol used in the Windows operating systems. Now, if we consider file sharing in the remote file system, that is over network or internet, so definitely there is a chance of failure. Okay, if the communication link breaks, so that is called as network failure, where client and server are not able to communicate to each other. In this case, how the failures will be handled? The remote file system is basically adding a new failure modes. So that is because of network failure or server failure. So it is going to make use of some failure modes. And whenever any failure occurs over the network, and the desired file system or file will not be accessible to the requested client because of network failure or server failure, in this case, we need to think of how to recover from the failure. So there are some stateless protocols like network file system NFS that include the information in each request, which is allowing easy recovery, but the security will be very minimal. Now let us move on to the next topic, that is protection. If at all you want to achieve the file sharing, it must be done with the help of protection. So without protection, the contents of file may be modified by some unauthorized user. So the protection is playing very important role in case of file sharing. In fact, the file sharing must be allowed with protection only. Otherwise, it should not be allowed. And if you allow the file sharing without protection, definitely some user is going to modify the contents. So that is ultimately affecting the results. We may not get the expected results, or some unwanted things like hacking will be happening, especially for the remote file systems like internet. Here there is something called a file owner or creator. Who is called as file owner or creator? File owner or creator is basically user who actually created a file. So whenever a particular user creates a file, an attribute will be set here. So that is file owner attribute. It is basically user name and user ID will be associated with that particular file. Okay. So the file owner basically will decide about what can be done by whom. Only the file owner can give access permissions or access rights to other users. If the file owner wishes to do that, he can do it. If file owner don't want to share the files with the other user, then he can. It means a file owner or creator will be deciding what can be done with the file and who can access that particular file. He will decide with the only file owner. In the Unix file system, there are different types of access. It is basically what are the different ways of accessing files from the file system. The first one is read. It is called as read access. It means a file is accessed for reading purpose. The contents of file will be read by a particular process of the user. So that is called as read access permission. The next one is write. It allows to modify the contents of the file. So that is what write access permission. A new content can be added at the end of the file. It can be appended at the end of the file, that is called as write access permission. Third one, execute. So there are some files like binary files which are called as executable files. If at all any user wants to execute any particular program or file, you should have a execute permission, execute access permission. Then only that particular user is able to execute the programs. Append, a new contents can be appended at the end of the file, so that is called as append. Delete, a file can be deleted if the delete access is given. List basically allows a listing of the contents of a directory. Okay, it is basically list the name and attributes of the file. So these are the different types of access rights pertaining to files. Now let us look at access list and groups. So we studied about access list and groups with respect to Unix operating system. So in the Unix operating system, there are three modes of access used for the files. So that is read, write, execute access rights or access permissions. For a particular file and for a particular user, the mode of access will be set as read, write, execute. So there are three classes of users on Unix. First one is owner access. That is the owner of the file. What is the access right set for the owner of the file? Who is the owner of the file? The owner is basically a user who has created the file actually. And what are the access permissions assigned to the owner, that is called as owner access. Access permissions are basically read, write, execute. Whether owner has read permission, write permission or execute permission on the file. So that is owner access. The second class of user in Unix is group access. I already mentioned, so there is something called user group. A set of users are put into group and the group is identified by a unique number that is called as group ID, and within a group there are a set of users and every user will be having its own unique ID that is called as user ID. Now how is the access permission set for a particular group? The users which are belonging to that particular group has access rights. So that will be defined by group access rights. Next one is public access. What is public access? Except owner and group, if you consider all other users. So what are the access permissions or rights given to all other users except owner and group? Okay, so in Unix there will be three kinds of users: owner, group and other users. And access permissions will be set separately for these users. And access permission or access rights are indicated by an integer value. Okay, for example, if you take 7 and convert 7 to binary, you will get it as 111. Okay, the leftmost bit is basically used for setting permission for read access. So that is indicated as R here. Second bit is basically indicating W, that is write access. Third one is indicating X, that is for execute access. So in this particular for owner access, it is 7. It is indicated as 111. It means owner has all three access permissions, that is read, write and execute. All access permissions are given to the owner. So that is indicated as 7. For the group access, it is 6 here. 6 is indicated as 110. Okay. So group users can have read access, write access, but there is no execute access permission given here. Okay. It means a group users can read, write, but they cannot execute a file. And if you take public, its value is indicated as 1 here. If you convert 1 to binary, you get it as 001. For all other users except group and owner, there is no read permission given here because for read it is the bit is set as 0. There is no write permission. For other users it is 0. there is only execute permission given because X is set to 1. So that is how access permissions are set through integer values in Unix. And there is something called manager in the Unix operating system that is creating the group with a unique name, for example G. Now let us add some users to the group. So that is called as a group that is exists in the system. A group is identified by a name and also the ID, and a set of people have been added to the group or users added to the group. For a particular file, for example game or a subdirectory, let us define an appropriate access permission. In Unix system, the access permission or access rights can be set with help of chmod command. Chmod is basically change mode of access. So there are three mode of access: read, write, execute, and we can change or set mode of access for different user or group with the help of chmod. Let us look at the syntax of chmod. Chmod command followed by access rights for owner, group and other users or public users. Okay, so I already mentioned for owner, okay, access rights is given as 7, that is the full access for the owner, that is read, write, execute. It is indicated as 7. The first digit here is indicating access, it is defining access rights for owner. Second digit, that is 6, is indicating access rights for the group user. For the group user, the access right is 110. Group users has access rights of read and write, but there is no execute permission. And the last digit is indicating public access. For other users, what is access permission? It is only execute permission for others users. There is no rewrite permission. Followed by name of the subdirectory or folder, that is game. For this particular subdirectory or folder, the access right is set as 761. 7 means full access rights for owner, that is read, write, execute for owner. Read and write for group here, there is no execute permission of group, and for public users or other users, only execute permission is granted. There is no read write permissions granted to public access. Now attach a group to file. So for that we need to execute another command that is called a chgrp. Chgrp stands for change group. Okay, we need to change group of the folder game. So it is taking two parameters, chgrp. G is basically name of the group followed by the folder that you want to attach to the group. So game with the access permission 761 will be part of this particular group G. Now let us see how the access permission will be set in case of Windows operating system. It is very simple. Okay, we need to go to properties in the Windows. Okay, yeah, you can observe here. So there are different permissions like full control, modify, read and execute, read, write, special permissions. And if you want to allow permissions for any of the user, here user is basically guest here. So like this we can set the permission for different users. If you click allow, that particular permission will be given to that particular user. If you click deny, the permission will be denied. It will be very simple in case of Windows operating system. So this is a sample Unix directory listing. So there is a command called ls-l in Unix. So ls is basically listing contents of directory. -l will be listing the contents of directory with all the file attributes. So we can see the attributes here. Okay, the first three. So we basically access rights for the owner, second access rights for group owner, and access rights for all other users for public access. Okay, so it is basically only read and write permission for owner, read and write permission for group owner, and only read permission for others. So like this access permissions we can see here after executing ls-l command. So this is the end of file system management. Thank you.